weeks, I've just kind of painted this picture of the godless society that Paul describes in Romans chapter 1. And last week we talked about the sin of homosexuality. And today I wanted to talk about another one of the sins that is mentioned in Romans chapter 1. And that is the sin, let's just say it's murder, because that's what it is mentioned in Romans chapter 1. But I want to make it even a little bit more specific, because it is arguably the sin of our country, okay, where over 900,000 unborn babies were murdered. Let's be honest and say and call it what it is, amen? Let's just be honest. That is what it is. When you take an innocent life, okay? And what's interesting, or maybe what's odd, is that maybe when that landmark decision, the Roe v. Wade that everybody has heard of, it probably had a whole lot of faults even in it, but they didn't have this thing called a sonogram back then, okay? Since then, we've got this thing called a sonogram, and what we found out was that God was right all along. That's what we found out. Because when we got this thing called a sonogram, we were actually able to look inside the mom's womb and we saw this little baby, okay? I don't know about you, dads, okay? But when I saw that little baby and it was just a bean, I fell in love. It was just a bean and I fell in love. I mean, that little bean hadn't done a thing for me, but I was instantly just drawn to the bean. I was like, this is the most wonderful, beautiful life ever. And I haven't even been able to say hi to the bean yet. And but this bean evidently, and I'm not really big on science and scientific stuff, so I had to make sure I was watching a video even this morning, and what I found out is that even at 8 weeks old inside the belly, 8 weeks, they can feel pain. They actually recoil if sometimes they have to do little experiments so they might prick their heel even inside the womb. And the sonogram actually shows them pulling away, At 8 weeks, many of their body functions are already working. Their kidneys and their lip and things like that are already functioning at 8 weeks old. It's absolutely amazing. They have brain activity. They even are found sucking their thumb at 8 weeks old. Their brains, they even say that there's a possibility that they're dreaming and that they can hear mom and dad talking at 8 weeks old. Okay? Now, I'm not holding for an 8 weeks. In fact, I believe what the Bible teaches is that life becomes life at the day of conception. Okay? That very moment when life took place, and here's the thing. When life is life, then you can't do anything else with it, because all life belongs to God. That's just my belief on that one. All life belongs to Him. He is the creator of all life. I get that from so many verses that it just wouldn't be funny to go through all of the different verses that prove and show that every life is because God started it. And if God, listen, you ready? This is the most important part of this, probably. If God started it, then we have absolutely zero right to end it, because God started it. All right? Amen or not, it doesn't matter what you think there. This is what God has said. We unfortunately, though, live in a world where even if I'm not even talking about, and people say abortion, I just think it's pro-death. You go, well, that's not fair. No, it is. It's just pro-death. I got reamed for that because I was using that term pro-death. But what do you explain? How do you explain over 900,000 deaths, murders last year alone? Okay, that's just pro-death. That is what it is. So you can be upset. Again, the last 3 weeks I've just been on a roll, so here we go, right? And we live in this. I wanted to share this with you because I think that this is a pretty good picture of how many people see life. I did this thing on Facebook last week, and I was just saying how I believe followers of Jesus should be pro-life. Jessica, our very own Jessica, chimed in on this as well. We were talking about how even babies who are not fully functioning, like they don't have all of their organs developed when they are born, okay? And this guy, I'm not going to tell you his name, but he was completely killed the baby. Literally, that's what he was saying, killed the baby. There's no sense. Miss Jessica chimed in, though. I thought she said something beautiful. She said, as a nurse, I have seen many babies born with that description. They do not live long. A friend just had one of these children and they lived only days. The parents spent as much time as they could and they made sure he wasn't suffering. But God decides when we are created and when we die. Amen? We as humans, she continues, we as humans should never take that role and play God and end a life. No matter if that life is a newly born baby or an elderly person. God decides, not us. Just a thought to consider for your argument of late-term abortion. That's what Miss Jessica said. Essentially, what in the world is wrong with a parent who decides to have a child who may not be as smart as you are, right? Or maybe there are deformities, or maybe there's mental issues, or all of those things, right? It doesn't still give us the right. And what is wrong with believing and hoping that there is a God in heaven who could even heal if that were possible, right? Just think of all of those things. And this is what this guy replied. It made me sick to my stomach. This is what he said. He wrote this out loud, which makes me think he actually had to type it out, and then he had to push send. But he said, if parents want to prolong suffering of an innocent soul so that they can get back rubs and ignorant hits, I say shame on them. But at least the government wasn't all up in it making their choice for them. And I think there's a part of that should absolutely make you insane, okay? Because this is what I think this guy is saying. He doesn't even realize what he's saying. He's saying this: if a parent wants to prolong the days and the suffering of a child, then so that they can get the back rub and you did the right thing, you prolonged their suffering and made them hurt even a little bit longer when you could have. This is what I think he must believe is less barbaric. He must believe that it is less barbaric to crush the unborn baby's skull while it's still in the womb, right? And then suck it out with a vacuum. That is evidently less barbaric. Isn't that right? Isn't that what he's saying? That it is more barbaric to allow that baby to be born, and to do everything you possibly can to see if there's any way that we can bring the baby to health, okay? Barring the fact that God could do a miracle, and we've never heard of God doing a miracle in those kind of situations, right? There's no way that God could do any of those things, okay? It must be less barbaric to go ahead and just crush that baby and then suck it out. Listen, if you are upset, good, right? If you're mad, good. You should be. Okay? If that just to test you, and that even the thought of that taking place messes with your mind, then good, you should. That means you're alive, and that must mean that for you, that life does mean something, right? Because in our world, it has been devalued over and over and over again, twice on Sunday. In fact, what we've just said, right, is the value of a baby is now based on whether or not the parents want it or not. That is how we have determined what the value of life is nowadays, based on whether or not the mother and the father want it. And I want to let you know that there is a value that is far above what the mother and the father have for that baby. You with me? There is a value that is so far and above anything that a mother and a father could have for a baby. Because there is a Father in heaven who literally, and I was going to pull out Psalms 139, but here's the deal. This God that you and I serve, the God of heaven, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of our Father, that one, that's the same one. It says that he formed the baby in the womb, okay? I knew the inward parts. I was the one who was putting the foot, and I was the one who was developing the brain, and I was the one. Look at this. This is beautiful, beautiful, okay? It's almost like Mom and Dad really didn't have as much to do with it as what we thought that we did have to do with it. Because when I read the Bible, what I find out is that God was literally the one, okay, who was putting everything. The reason that I'm as beautiful as I am today is because God put this together just like this. I mean, give him a hand, right? Wait, what? I guess that was funnier. That was funnier in my head. Calm down. But this God, well, I'm not going to do it justice. I'm going to tell you what he said in Psalms 39, okay? This is what he says in verse 13. But you, God, you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I lost the place. It's so awesome. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the lowest part of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. Isn't that beautiful? That there's this God who, from the moment of conception, and maybe even, I guess, in his mind, even before that, but he sees us, he loves us, he forms you, and this is what he does. This is going to mess with you, okay? He formed you exactly like he wanted you, okay? And all of those imperfections that you see every single day, and we look at those things. I don't, but maybe you do. All those perfections that you see in the mirror and all of those things that you wish could change and wish that you looked different and all that. Again, I don't know what that means, but maybe you do. I read somewhere. But God was like this. I made you exactly the way that I wanted you. Okay? I loved it. I can, just like God looking and going, listen, I'm going to put your hair like this, and I'm even going to create it to where you're going to wish you had more, later on. But this is how beautiful. In God's eyes, you're absolutely wonderfully made, beautiful. He has numbered your days and written in the books what it all should look like. He has, when he looks at you, he goes, I have plans for you to prosper you, for you to have success. I have made you, and you are the apple of my eye. There's nothing more that I would want more than to see you, right? To be born and to live out your days in the light of who I am, and that you would do that. And for some reason, I guess if you were Satan, wouldn't you want to do everything possible to devalue that as much as you possibly could? Would you do anything possible? You would say life is not that important. You would say life is not determined by how God determines life and the value of it, but you now determine life by how convenient it is for us to have that life. That is the new standard. It's completely satanic. Just to throw that out there. Completely and absolutely anti-God. Because God has a value for you. Listen, this is how valuable you are to God. You ready? This is just amazing. He looks at you, and even though we are sinners, and though we put our fist in his face, and even though we said we didn't want anything to do with you, God's value for you, Mike, was like this. I will die on a cross. I will pay the worst penalty ever. I will hang there for 6 hours. I will allow the world to scoff, and I will do whatever it takes. Why? Because I want Mike, because he's so valuable to me that I love him, and I will do whatever it takes to bring him back to me. That's how valuable you are. And if I were Satan, do you know what I would do? I would go, actually, you're not that valuable, okay? I mean, if I were Satan, I would want you to think of all the flaws that you have, and I would think of all the issues that you think you need to change, and all of this kind of stuff. Instead of focusing on the beautiful part of what life is all about, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the what? Life. It's all about him. And if I were Satan, that's what I would do. I would devalue it, and I wouldn't make it that big of a deal. In fact, when you hear the word abortion now, you don't cringe, do you? We don't even think anything about it. You say the word abortion, and oh, okay, that's like Monday, And I wonder if we went like this, we heard pro-death, abortion, and things like that, and we had the mental picture of what literally is happening, and it's happening 900,000 times a year, over and over and over again. And now you've got an idea of life like this guy does. How sad. And the thing that, and I don't want to go too far into this, but this is how far we've gone. The main objection that I hear that abortion is okay, and maybe you've heard it. I know you've heard it, but I'm not kidding. They go like this. It is the woman's right to choose what is done with her body. Isn't that what you hear 1,000 times, if not a million? Which, when you think about that, is absolutely insane, because that does not apply in any other area of life. And here's what I mean by that. Take your body that you think is you can do, and I want you to run down the street naked. See if the government doesn't tell you to stop. Would they probably arrest you, right? I think that's a thing. But has anybody ever come to you and said, but it's my body. I have the right to choose what I do with my body, right? No, you don't. You have no right to do that with your body. You can't do whatever you want with your body, but it's for some reason our government has decided to make this one little exception. You can kill another body, by the way. It's not your body. Because remember, own heartbeat, okay? Own DNA, own system, own brain, own feelings, own thoughts, already dreaming, sucking their own thumb, okay? All right? Different body. You cannot make decisions for death for another person. In any other situation, we call that murder. And what I thought was interesting is that this guy, okay, the further conversation that we had with him, was that he didn't believe that a baby was even a person until 7 days after the fact that they were born. That means, literally, you can starve, kill, do whatever you want to until day 7 of that baby. And you know what? The thing that I only mention is because he's not alone. Our own governor has said things like that. And you know why? Because our governor doesn't get it, and this guy doesn't get it either. Is that life is not determined by you, sir, or the governor, or even the president, or the Supreme Court. Life is not valued or based their value on any of those things. Life and the value of it is based on God and God alone. Taking it is a sin. You take and you steal from what God has done.